countdown. This is gonna be fun. All right, so today we're gonna talk about the power of design intention. And you're probably like, what does this mean? What is this? But I first want you to take a deep breath. How many of you have been taking deep breaths today? Let's kind of do this together, kind of be a team thing. So on 3. All right, if your neighbor couldn't hear you, it means you probably weren't breathing loud enough, so make sure you breathe throughout the day. But today I want us to really carry on and finish strong, because all the things that you learned yesterday, and you could see me in there taking notes and dropping them in the Slack channel so that you can come back to the things that you learned, but you gotta take it a step further and actually think about how you're gonna integrate some of these things back at your home, back at your office, with your team. Pluck some of the things that were the big ahas for you and some of the things that, kind of inspired you. And today I wanna talk about kind of inspiration. I wanna talk about intentionality, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be an adventure. So I know you got to see all these incredible speakers up here, putting in the time for their decks, coming up, flying in. And did you guys have a good time hearing about all these stories? Was it good? Did you learn something? Yeah? That's good, because, one day you'll be up here on the stage, or one day you'll want to share your story, or like Ethan was talking about with your presentations, your portfolio, you're gonna be able to tell your stories, and telling stories is what it's all about. The case studies, the things that you learned, the things that you grew, and the ahas that you take back along all your journeys. So important. So let's keep this clicker going. All right, so I'm gonna talk today about my story. Kind of give you an introduction to personal development. We all do personal development, but we probably don't know we're doing it. You're doing it right now. You did it the last 2 days. To even fly here today, or yesterday and today and Wednesday, you invested in your personal development to come here and learn about design and product. And for all the non-product people, the executives and other people that came, kudos to you for coming here. And I just want to honor you for making that investment in yourself. And then also when you get back and you thank your bosses and you thank your teams for investing in you to come out, that's a special thing. And it's incredible. So we're going to talk about the tools, community, life coaching, everything that GrowthDay has in personal development. I'm gonna talk about how GrowthDay formed, which is gonna give you a whole other different picture of how this formed during the COVID years. And then I'm gonna talk about how we strive, how we actually get the stuff done that we're just so passionate about working on. And I'll tell you a little bit about my stories too. So what's up, everybody? I'm Drew. I'm head of product and design at GrowthDay. I'm founder of Next Level UX, which is a coaching program for high performance product and design. I host Practical UX Weekly on LinkedIn Learning. If you've ever tapped into LinkedIn Learning, I got a UX series there. And I'm a father, a husband, and just a maker. I love making stuff. So my history, I've been so blessed, so fortunate to work at some of these top brands. I started at Savannah College of Art and Design. If you've ever heard of Savannah College of Art and Design, got a BFA in graphic design there, played baseball. I don't think I could have afforded SCAD if I wasn't on a baseball scholarship. Then got my first gig out in Durango, Colorado. If everybody been to Durango, got my first interaction design job. Literally stepping into a team that was getting coached by Marty Kagan, and the team had won a top 10 Nielsen Norman Award. It's like my very first team that I got to join. And when you step into a team that it's a high performing team, and you're like, the first thing you want to do is what are they doing that's working? How can I model this behavior? What are the things they're doing to win? And that was kind of like my breakthrough of I'm gonna learn from my peers. I'm gonna be around an incredible peer group, and that's how I'm gonna level up in my career. I also started doing that when I was at SCAD. I started my own business with my wife. We literally would go and walk to each different company and say, do you need a website? And not that I knew how to develop at that time, I was a designer, but you know what I did? I got online, went to lynda.com, and just learned how to code. That was just figure it out. Then got a really incredible opportunity to go to Santa Fe, New Mexico, work at NIC USA, so working in e-government, helping government come online. That was when like responsive design was like, thing. Everybody's like, responsive design. And then I flew out to San Francisco, got a job at CrossCap, which was like a marketing retail, big marketing, got to work with like Walmart, Target, Gap, Ann Taylor, Victoria's Secret, all these big brands and help them with their marketing platforms, their marketing calendars, got to learn a little bit about how you localize marketing across the world, across the country. Then I got this, if you've ever heard of Lynda, any old school Lynda users out there? Yeah, a little bit. So that was like my baby. Redesigned that entire platform, scaled it, then LinkedIn bought lynda.com, was a part of that acquisition. And then fell in love with the social experience of online learning, and that LinkedIn learning got to be born. And through that, like, I got so passionate about online learning, so passionate about just like building my skill set, building. And then I came across InVision, and at that time, InVision was just building the new design tool studio, and it was they were pushing and trying so hard, and my job was to actually fly around the country, and I was a part of the design transformation team. So I got to teach design maturity. I got to map all of your companies, some of your companies, and like hundreds and hundreds of them, and learn about what they were doing that was successful for them, and then figuring out how to integrate better practices, better disciplines, better routines for their teams to build design systems, to also raise their design maturity. So I got this behind the scenes look. And it was a really special time for me because I love learning, and I loved helping people and teaching. So I continued doing LinkedIn learning and teaching, and then got this crazy opportunity to go to Facebook, work in performance management. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second because it all leads back to what we're doing today. And I still can coach and teach and help support the Stanford D School with what's it called? The ME216. It's a hard thing to remember, the 216 team, but helping them staff up. And then me and my son, which I'll share a little bit of story about him, but just some really great opportunities. Now I'm head of design at GrowthDay, and I still am teaching and training on programs. So a lot of experience, super blessed. But you know what? Like all this whole thing of why we're here, all the family, all the teams that support you to do what you do, all the projects that you worked on the last couple of years during like COVID and being at your house, like our families deserve like a round of applause too for just like supporting us, being there for us, like the actual people, you go home to and they're there for you. And for me, it was my son, Jude, my wife, Jamie, and what I'd call like the high performance habits, which I'll share a bit, but as we get into personal development. But I think it's just a magical thing that we have each other, we're building our peer network, we're peering our groups, and we got to support our family and also give them a round of applause. So that was pretty cool. All right, so tapping into personal development. What is personal development? And I'm gonna give you 3 quick tips, just kind of like, if you're gonna write anything down today, start thinking about this at a holistic level. So the first one is aliveness. When you think about personal development, you want to be able to feel alive in the work that you do. You don't want to come to work and be a zombie. You don't want to come to work and be like in a cog, like, okay, I'm just, I followed my passion, I followed my intuition my entire career. And feeling alive is like what motivates you in the morning to get up and like, I'm gonna crush this day. I'm gonna step up and I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna grow. But the other things that we're gonna do is we need meaningful connections. We gotta connect with people, we gotta connect with each other, we gotta connect with, just make connections. It's people, it's a beautiful thing. And then we also need this third thing, which is, let me see if the clicker comes, meaningful pursuits. Meaningful pursuits. The things that you actually can have a why behind, you can have a purpose behind, something that's gonna like lift you up and be like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why am I putting all this effort into this team and this company? What is the meaningful pursuits that you're on right now? And you can think about it and just reflect on it for a second and think about, what am I doing right now that feels meaningful? And then when you can tie together some meaningful action and meaningful purpose, it can start moving things so much faster for you. And that's what we're gonna do. And I'm gonna talk about that with this story right here. So it's the time frame around March, right before COVID started, you started getting the news and people started coming up. And then, but we're building this performance management tool at Facebook. And this is to help the 50,000 employees get to their next level. They're trying to grow. I mean, companies are trying to invest in growth. So I was a part of the people products team. And I'm doing my research and trying to figure out okay, well, we've got to build better habits for the highest performers in the world. What do they need? What are they trying to do? So I started doing research and I came across this book, High Performance Habits. Has anybody read this book before? Has anybody seen this book? Maybe one person? Two? Okay, this is gonna change your life. If you just buy this book, read this book, it's gonna change the game for you. So this is the number one thing that if you're gonna do anything, if you're gonna take any of my advice based on what I've learned and grown in my career, the first thing you gotta do is learn about the habits that the most successful people in the world are practicing. The most successful people, the Olympians, the professional athletes, the highest presidents, this is the real deal. So then I started doing my research and then I came across this guy, Brendon Burchard. And Brendon Burchard is a high performance coach. He is one of the world's most famous high performance coaches and public speakers in personal development. And this guy, he wrote this book. And I started doing my research again, and then I came across this company called Growth. And I learned that when I was at Facebook, I wanted to actually get to my next level. I wanted to get some personal development around how am I gonna become an executive? I wanted to start a company one year, in my lifetime. I wanted to level up myself. So in doing that, I came across this company called Growth. So I signed up and got a high performance coach. They're called a CHPC. It's a certified high performance coach. And I went through a 16-week coaching program with this company. And I was a jock growing up. I was in sports. I wasn't into hiring somebody to come pick my life apart. I wasn't into that. But I was vulnerable. I was open to okay, well, I wasn't necessarily getting that sort of coaching and leadership when I was at Facebook. Facebook, I was kind of half product, half design. So I had to do a lot of product management. I had to do a lot of design. And we were stretched pretty thin. So I'm well, I need somebody to help me level up. So I ended up doing this. It was life-changing. I learned about this planner, this high-performance planner that also Brendon ended up using. And then I also found out this dude was crazy successful and incredibly impactful for millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions of training views, and was the most successful online teacher. He had started, he had the first online course for personal development and performance management in 2009. So this guy was legit. So I come across this and I start diving closer into this. I find this high performance plan. This is a look at what's inside that planner. So when you come to the planner, it's a monthly planner, and you can actually go through today's message to myself, top 3 goals and priorities, the tasks that absolutely need to be done today. So getting super intentional about your day, super intentional. And well, how many of you ask those sorts of questions when you wake up, or do you have routines where you're stepping into okay, what do I want to do today? How am I going to show up? And what does success look like for today? You might do that, once a product review meeting, or what's success look like for this meeting. But he was teaching it to do it every single day. So I got into that. I also started learning about these assessments, doing weekly scorecards, getting benchmarks around okay, well, how do I want to perform this week? And how am I doing across these high performance habits? Seek clarity, generate energy. These are some of the high performance habits. Create influence, courage, productivity. Those are the things that you practice around the high performance habits, which I'll talk a little bit about too with GrowthDay. And then there was monthly reviews. Super cool stuff, but there's one commonality across all the teams that I worked on and the best teams in the world, especially when I was at Envision, flying around, learning about what the best companies do. And you know what it was? It was that they had an incredible high dose of intentionality. They highly thought about and they were proactive about the things that they were trying to achieve. They had high intention about the meetings that they're going into and stepping into. They know what success looks like in each of those moments, and they don't take those moments for granted. And how many meetings have you been into where you kind of check out? You check out, or you're in a Zoom call and you just what is it? Why am I even here? It happens so frequently. But when you can step into a higher level and elevate yourself and think about like, well, what is this intentionality? What is that higher level of intentionality for me? You start to change the game for how you show up around other people. And this isn't just at work, this is at home. This is about how you interact with people out in the hallway. This is about how you treat people when you go up and you order food at a restaurant or get your coffee in the morning. How much intention are you putting into the things that you put into your life? So I think it's a beautiful thing. So what I want to do right now is kind of fast forward real quick and show you what GrowthDay is, just to give you a little bit of taste of what I'm going to walk you through today, and then I'm going to circle back to some other stories about this. So check this out.
Hi, welcome to GrowthDay, the world's first all-in-one personal development app that helps you achieve your full potential through habit tracking, journaling, goal planning, social learning, and life coaching. GrowthDay is backed by decades of research and experience and was founded by the #1 high-performance expert in the world, Brendon Burchard. As the only personal development app owned and developed by a leading high-performance coach, GrowthDay provides all the tools you need to improve your life on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. As you open up the GrowthDay app, you'll notice the most popular feature, the Daily Fire, where Brendon shares a new growth reflection every day. There are also hundreds of life score recommendations and over 1,500 writing prompts based on scientific research, all designed to develop habits that lead to decreased stress, improved clarity, and clear intentions. GrowthDay's plan and reminders keep you accountable and action-oriented, and the challenges, courses, and masterclasses enable social learning and growth with other strivers. You can also join weekly workshops with world-famous mentors and coaches. Whether you're looking to improve your clarity, confidence, or reinvent yourself, GrowthDay has a self-improvement plan for you. Sign up today for a free trial.
You should definitely sign up, but we'll move on to that. But so get this. So 2021 was a start. We had a super small team. I was still at Facebook at the time. Brendon had hired an agency to start the project, start this Envision, because at the time he had did 8 events a year, like big giant Tony Robbins style, like big events, 8 of them a year. But since COVID, can't actually put those events on, so there was this awakening of this opportunity to bring all these analog tools, that planner, that journal, the High Performance Habits book, put all that research and build it into a product. So I'm still at Facebook, doing my thing, building 3 0-to-1 products around personal development, about remote calibration, and about compensation management. So I'm like just deep in the weeds at Facebook, and I'm finishing my coaching. And then I realized after I finished my coaching, I'm like, whoa, there's a huge opportunity from what I just went through. So guess what I did? I reached out to Brendon on LinkedIn. You know, that magic, I was like, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing, but if you ever have the ambition or the urge to build an app or to build an ecosystem around this, I'd like to be a part of it. So, I didn't think he was gonna respond back to me, right? It's like the celebrity coach, but guess what? He responded back to me, and then all of a sudden, he's like, hey, Drew, I got this small team working on something. Can you go check it out? Can you see if they're like on the right track? Can you let me know, like, is it, so 90 days later, I joined the team. I decide that it's actually not at the bar that I would expect from what I experienced from his coaching experience. It was super high level, like super executive, like just incredible coaching. And the product that they're building felt more like a website. It didn't feel like an ecosystem. It didn't feel like an app. It was just disappointing. So then today, and I'll walk through like how it all builds, but today we have 2 PMs, 3 designers, 1 creative agency, 14 developers, 6 QA, myself, a VP of engineering. We have about 65 people. That includes like customer support, social media, our events team. It's a small unit, 65 people. But we're building this massive, massive ecosystem. So I want to walk you through that ecosystem right now, and then I'm going to show you a little bit, some wild story here in a second that you're going to be like, what? So we got this ecosystem, right? We learned through the research of the high performance habits that people need what we call growth loops. Growth loops are the ability for you to reflect, for the ability for you to kind of benchmark or score yourself. We talk about measuring products all the time. Like, we gotta measure. But do we measure ourselves? People don't like tests though, right? You don't like taking tests because you feel judged. You feel like, oh, I don't wanna do that. But the thing is, when you can measure how you're performing across the high performance habits, you start realizing like, you know what? My courage is really low. Well, why is your courage really low? Maybe you need to prepare a little bit more. Maybe you need to build your confidence up a little bit more. But how do you do that? There's so much research and science around how to build these things. So we built them into the ecosystem. We built them into the app. So we have a growth profile. We built social challenges. We built a plan. We built a learning experience similar to like a lynda.com or a masterclass. So you can do all this inside of this one tool. But then we're also expanding it even more. We have a whole GrowthDay podcast network. We have wearables we're working on. We have AI we're working on. We still have our events team, which we just had an event last week, which I'm gonna show you some of that fire. It was so incredible. And then we have a massive content catalog that we're starting to map out all the topics and categories that we need for personal development. So all this is super great, right? It's an ecosystem for personal development. Nothing like that on the market. There's a lot of coaching apps, but it doesn't bring in tools. It doesn't bring in community. It doesn't bring in live coaching. It doesn't bring in content. So what we're trying to do is really connect all those pieces. And it just aligns with, my history of growth. So really when it comes down to it, there's three things that just gotta master. You gotta have mastery level. You gotta understand your people, you gotta understand your tools, and you gotta understand how you're going to scale and build your platform. We're not building, we're building ecosystems and platforms. It's really, your systems thinking needs to level up, especially with all of these new integrations, these new opportunities to integrate AI, to integrate other products and services into your company. So you gotta really think about it as platforms now. Just keep clicking this through. So how did this form? Like, what were we doing, right? So I told you that I messaged him and started kind of coaching this team, realizing that we needed to kind of course correct. But then we all came together. He's like, okay, 60 days later, we're getting ready to launch this beta of this tool. He's got 10,000 existing customers in his other online courses. So what we had to do is take those 10,000 people and try to find product market fit for the app, because these people never use the app and they were always using like his online trainings and they just didn't have exposure. So we all come together in Puerto Rico. He's from Puerto Rico. We come into this epic room and we're setting a vision, trying to figure out like, okay, what are we gonna do? It was super inspiring because it was also like that morning, I'm a big runner. I like to run in the mornings. And that morning was like a sign. It was such a beautiful thing. There's this beautiful rainbow. And I'm like, this is where I need to be. This is where I need to be right now. And it was super fun too, because like not years later, but moment I got to go meet this guy, and we just were ready to take off, ready to just absolutely crush this experience. So really, this is how I felt. Like, all right, we got this massive ecosystem, massive product. We got people coming in. How are we gonna scale this incredibly fast? And how are we gonna build the best high-performing team that the world's ever seen for product design? And we get to build all the things that I learned from all these companies that I worked with. So there's a high bar for excellence. There's a high bar for me to show up and get this thing done. And so we start, just like most companies start, with a vision, right? You talked about vision a lot. So understanding what your vision is, our vision is to be the number one personal development platform for individuals and teams. We just started an enterprise ecosystem as well, so that your teams can actually come in here, measure, and get like scorecards, so you can level up and let your manager know how you feel about them, or you can also come in here and get some training. But you gotta have a mission behind that, because the mission's what's gonna drive you. The vision's like the North Star vision of like what you wanna do. It's aspirational, but the mission is how you're gonna show up every day. And we wanna make sure that personal development is a way of life. Like, we want it to be normalized, that you can go up and you wanna work on yourself, great, let's do it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying that you're not so good in one thing and you can work towards it and be okay with making those things a little bit better every single day, like just 1% better every day. But you also gotta show up with some values, right? How are you gonna pull in this team, scale super fast, You gotta have some strong values, and our number one value is empathy. How are we thinking about our team? How are we thinking about our customers? But we call our customers strivers, right? So what do our strivers really need? And it's a constant conversation because, how you treat people, how you show up for people, how you care about their needs, desires, and their wants, it's incredibly important thing. But we're a personal development company, so we like a little rah-rah, right? We like a little motivation, so we gotta be encouraging too. But not only encouraging, we gotta bring the excellence to the table. This whole entire last couple years was about like wellness and about, we call it like phase 2. You gotta meditate more. You gotta be super positive. But what we like to say, we wanna demand excellence. We wanna be at that higher level of ourselves. And I think it's okay to actually want that and to shoot for that and to know what that quality bar looks like for yourself. So we got this, this cool little tools community and coaching ecosystem that we're building. So I just wanna show you another quick video of actually the product. Before it was kind of like just letting you understand what it is. This one doesn't have any content. So just check this out for a sec. Gets me fired up. It's like 18 months shipping all this, building it, seeing results. I love it. Because you know what? We need growth systems. We need like that personal development. We need that encouragement. We need that empathy. We need that excellence in our lives. And you know what? Like we built this entire ecosystem, but it's hard. It's hard to build new products, right? We learned a lot about the difficulties and the challenges of that chaos, simplifying that complexity into beauty, into harmony. But you know what? When you're building something from 0 to 1, and then you're going from 1 to the 1.5, and you keep working on those things, you got to have your systems in place. So, when we think about the dashboard, which is how people come into the product, they come into the tool, they get a little touch point of all the different personal development tools that we have to offer. They get those daily and Monday motivations from Ed Milet, Brendon Burchard. Every single day, our CEO goes live on the platform. So when we were thinking about like touch points for personal development, we need daily touch points with our customers, because you know what? People need motivation. People get, tired. They get unmotivated. They need encouragement. They need to know like, okay, well, what's the framework today? What am I going to do today? They need those touch points. They also need this incredible thing called journaling. How many of you journal like in your life? A couple? Come on, nope, okay. So journaling it's scientifically proven over and over and over that you can reduce stress, anxiety, depression. You can also increase and improve your memory by journaling. I was coaching one of my clients today, and he was talking about, I kind of forget what I did yesterday, or I forget what I accomplished this week, because you're not reflecting on it, you're not journaling about it, you're not taking notes in your meetings, and you're not thinking about what your product managers are doing, your engineers, and when you hear them in stand-up, are you really analyzing and thinking about what they actually accomplished, what are they moving forward, and what's something that you can do to support them? What's something that you can do to help move that needle forward? And a lot of the times that just is a little bit of intention. So a lot of our customers use the journal to be able to take notes, but we have 1,500 journal prompts, high performance research-backed journal prompts to help you kind of like switch that mindset, to get that growth mindset. Because you might not be asking these questions. You might not even know what those questions are. But once you can start programming or deprogramming, maybe what you've thought about in your past and your childhood, and kind of switch into, okay, well, what are the best doing? What are they thinking about? What kind of questions are they asking? You can start getting into that new habit, that new system. There's also what we call life scores. Taking assessments, being able to reflect back, and then also getting some recommendations on what you can do about it. Because oftentimes, you might do an assessment, but what am I gonna do about it? How am I gonna get some support? So our life scores actually help with that. Then that plan tool, it's not just about a to-do list. To-do lists kind of have dead ends. But you know what doesn't have a dead end is a system, is a routine, is a ritual where you can come in and set your morning routines. How many of you have morning routines? Yeah, couple? Yeah, thank you for raising your hands. Morning routines are a great way to set your day up for success. Evening reviews, how are you kind of reflecting on your evening reviews and knowing how am I gonna build this really incredible system for myself so that I'm setting myself up for success? Or, recurring plans. We can set recurring plans, we can set reminders. So we learned about all this in research that these sort of little triggers to get you back into the bright mindset so that you can perform and execute on that path. That's what the plan does. You can also set goals in it too. Then we have these social challenges. So we also were thinking about, well, how do you get people into your product to add more value and still use all the other the other tools of growth? So we built these challenges, which are similar learning paths where you can watch courses, you can have embeds of the tools like journaling, goal setting, planning, all inside these challenges where you can also do it with other people. You can also learn with other people. It's a big important thing. Social learning with peers, learning about what's working for them and learning about what's working for you and sharing your insights. So all the things you learned today, taking them back to your team and sharing hey, I learned this thing about AI this week. This new leak somebody shared with me. I'm gonna go test it out. Do you wanna test it out with me? Or, the other things about going and sharing a case study. Hey, we haven't wrote a case study about what we've done in a while. If I was gonna do that, what would that look like? What would that feel like? How could we prepare and be proactive about, setting up our results for success in the long haul? And the same thing with learning, right? You gotta have on-demand learning, but we also have these things called growth groups. And, we talked about peer groups earlier, and there's a lot of platforms and products where you can jump on a Zoom call and see that. But what we have is growth groups where you can have very highly intentional conversations. And if remember Clubhouse, remember some of these other one-to-one virtual tools. Well, we built all that also in this 18 months. So we have a whole Zoom experience inside the tool, which has a whole slew of complications too from scaling, which is one of the big things that we're gonna be working on this year. So you have that, it's great. So you got all these coaches. So the top 10, 12 high performance coaches in personal development, influencers in the world, CEOs, billionaires, all these people charge about $50,000 to get up on stage. And they're way better than me at speaking, but they're $50,000 to get up on stage and present. They're coming in our product every single Wednesday, talking about specific topics. So cool. And then we have this podcast network, which also helps people still, build that network of content. We have, the community, which is also a really important part, right? Building community, all the people you meet in this conference. You want to continue that relationship. You want to, stay in touch with people is really important. You also want to have platforms that you can go to, and you want to build growth systems, which is ways to get people back in the product. We also have these Wednesday workshops, which is the thing I was talking about where people come in, you can talk about these topics, you can go through and experience them live with these coaches. And there's weekly touch points. This is what we would call a rhythm. So you got rhythms in your company. You might not be super aware of them, but they're the way that you ship things, the expectations that your customers are expecting, like certain content to be released or product releases. Those week rhythms and those touch points are dramatically important for having a touch point and a connection with your customers or your strivers, the people that use your product. And then we have these incredible topics, which they go on and go on. And in all these advanced mindset, designing your future, creating great friendships, finding purpose. And the key thing that I absolutely love about this is that you're getting different perspectives. Has anybody used Masterclass? You have these very, very pro people teaching. But the thing is when you get to hear 8 to 10 different perspectives about what it takes for time management, how do you design your future and hear 7 to 10 different perspectives. It's really critical, and it's super just impactful to be able to do that. Then there's that podcast network, which I showed you. Keep going through here. And then this masterclass series where we actually have these online courses and learning. So all this ecosystem, right? We're thinking about systems, we're thinking about how we build these things, and the behind the scenes. So what I want to do now is, we just had an epic Austin event last week where we brought 2,000 people together. And this was our first event since COVID. So people were pretty excited to be together, right? Just like I know all you are excited to be together. So I want to show you this little behind the scenes of kind of what the brand and the product experience looks like and feels like, because it's not just about what you build in the web. It's about the experiences that you create for your people. The experiences that when you meet somebody or you meet your customers and you really know how big of an impact you have on their life and what they're doing, it's a whole nother level of satisfaction, fulfillment. And I want you to experience it with me.
You know right now whether or not you are living. You know right now where there's a vibrancy, a presence, a joy, an energy in this room right now. You know it. You know if your energy has sucked, and you know if it has been aligned and tapped into. You know it. You don't have motivation, you generate motivation. You don't have drive and edge, you generate those things. You don't have love, you generate love. And as soon as you get it, bang, everything shifts, everything in your life, in a second.
Oftentimes, you are one new relationship, one meeting, one new thought, one new emotion, one speaker, one appointment, one rep away from completely, one decision away from totally changing your life. If there's something you gotta fix, fix it. Something you want to achieve, get it. Something you want to feel, become, contribute. Go now. Go now. Immediate, massive action. Go now. You were born to do something great.
So I don't know about you, but that is when I first came into this company, I had never experienced a personal development conference before. And I've been to many design conferences, I've done a ton of workshops, but I've never been a part of a community of 2,000. We have 300,000 plus people that are using the product, and we're a profitable company. We're building very slowly. We're not over hiring. We're privately funded. So we're taking our time, but still being incredibly ambitious with what we create. But the thing is, the members, the strivers, they love that connection, because what do they want? They want to elevate themselves. They want to get to that next level. And we all want that next level, and it's an adventure. It's something we strive for. So I want to show you two quick ones, and then I'm going to work through the systems of how all this was built really quick, because I know you're probably really interested in that, but I wanted you to really see
I'm
some
here.
of this backstory of what we're doing here.
I go in strength. Now, what if you started your friggin' day like that?
If you are one of the brave ones, willing
Jamie
to
Kern
go
Lima.
for it, willing to put in the work of unlearning those old beliefs and identifying the new true ones, you're gonna have to get really good at learning to cheer for yourself.
I want flow to happen for you, but that flow has to come from your body, right? I don't want you to live in a caged health environment that you create for yourself. I want you to choose to build a body that's a conduit to your highest levels of energy and service to the world.
What promise did God make to the world when he created
Anthony
you?
Trucks.
It's not just what do you want to do, it's what are you here to do? What's been tasked for you? And here's the thing, I don't think the answer is what have you accomplished? What have you got done? What do you own? I think it's who are you? Who are you?
That's right.
See, there's
Last
a
one
person
here.
in each and every one of us, including myself.
This is Trent Shelton.
There's a version of you, which I call the greatest you, that you haven't even met yet. That's waiting for you to grow into, that's waiting for you to walk into, that's waiting for you to work into, that's waiting for you to believe into. And you're just a belief away from being that greatest version of yourself. And I promise you it's possible.
Double down doesn't always mean more time. It means intensity, commitment, frequency. It means now you live and you breathe it and you walk with it. Your block time is you taking life back, which you must do when you decide, I'm gonna own my dream. Everyone say, I own my dream.
We go for something and it's in our
Lori
soul
Harder.
and we want it. Even if you go for that and it fails, that was a very important piece of learning in the journey to the next thing that could win.
Yeah. So all the systems, all the leadership, all the rhythms behind this, like so incredibly important, right? The systems that you create in your life, the systems that you create in your teams, and the leadership of how you show up both individually and also in managing your staff, and the rhythms of your business, the rhythms that in the tempo that you set on your team, you know, how quickly you do something and how good you do that thing, incredibly momentous. Like this sort of thing is so important. So guess what? You know, there's obviously a lot of things and a lot of tasks and a lot of stories that you're creating in product management and design. It's chaos. It's a lot of different things that you have to manage, that you have to practice. But you know what? You gotta simplify that complexity. And what do? You know, you use tools like Figma. You build incredible design systems, which are expected. It's an expectation because this has been working for, you know, countless teams. You heard talk about the 1.2 billion valuation from, you know, reimagining and rebuilding that architecture and rebuilding that company. Incredible stuff, right? We all have that responsibility to do that. We know that we need to do it. So it's not like just trying to get to that level like right now. You have to build up your maturity, right? That's what design maturity is. You might be at one level, but you know what? It might take 3 months, it might take 2 quarters to get to that next version, that next level of that design maturity, but that is the journey. That is the adventure. And you know, it's all over the internet. All that research is there. It's just about doing the work. And you got to do that work. And you know, the systems behind all this, the systems that you create inside of Figma or whatever design tool that you use, it's so critical that you start thinking about these as systems. You start thinking about these as rhythms, because these are the things when you show up every day and you're like, what do I need to accomplish today? You have a plan for it. You have an objective for it, and you're working towards that in your product and design life cycles. And you know, the systems behind the systems is what like Next Level UX was. So when I left Facebook, and I started building out a training program in high performance product and design, I took all the things that I learned from all these companies, and I started looking at like, well, what are those things? So I built a playbook, and I'm like, I'm gonna follow this playbook. And this playbook first is we gotta make sure that our team, we understand how to build clarity for every single thing that we do. We gotta be able to tap into our goals for the people I train and also for my team. I wanna know what my team's goals are, but on their personal level, their project level, their career level, and their passions. I wanna know what those things are when I'm coaching and working with my staff. Why do I wanna do that? Because they're people and I care about them. You know, they're not just cogs in the wheel that are just gonna do the work. I want to know who they are. Then, and I wanna actually teach them how to plan. I was having a coaching session with somebody today, and they don't even know, it's Q2 right now, right? We got 2 more months left in Q2. And they don't know what the roadmap is. And it's just like something that you don't know what your roadmap is, then how are you planning your work? You know, that's what action planning is all about. But, you know, designers are not expected in the past, or we weren't trained at it in design school to be able to do project planning. But you gotta plan out all the responsibilities and all the things that you gotta do to be able to be in lockstep with your product management and your design management. You gotta be able to plan that work. You gotta be able to practice it. You gotta be able to build design energy. You gotta be able to build design clarity. That's how you help your team know what needs to get built and why it needs to get built. You gotta be able to build in productivity so you know what systems you need to improve so that you can flow with the work that you're doing. You gotta understand how to measure design impact. You know, we actually know how much it costs us to do a story point, and then we can actually see how much it's gonna cost us over the long term, which is so cool. There's a formula for that, so you can DM me and we can make sure that you get the formula for how to measure your story points so that you can see that, you know, the cost of them. Purpose, influence, encourage, tools, people, tactics. These are all trainings that I have in my platform. It's so super important. So now I wanna get like super vulnerable with you guys, because I was in Alameda in the Bay Area, and guess what? At this point in time, this was like right before COVID, and you know, me and my wife, just all of a sudden, you know, I know people are stressed during COVID, you know, but in Alameda, we started getting a little whiff of something in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 in the morning, started smelling like cannabis, started smelling cigarette smoke coming into our house. And then we're like, no, this is gonna be one night, like we'll be fine. Another night passes, keeps coming in. Another night passes, it keeps coming in. We're like, what is going on? What are people, it's like 2 or 3 in the morning. You're like, what is happening? And I know it's, people need to relax, get into their, get in their zone, but it was starting to affect our sleep. It was starting to affect my wife's sleep. And we're like, this is not good. What are we gonna do? And I already had this studio set up. This was like when we couldn't go back to the offices. And I also had another place to do some workout in the garage where I could run all my Peloton and do my training. But then at that time, we're like, we can't do this anymore. We gotta leave. So during all the time we're building GrowthDay, all the time where we have this big old giant opportunity to win big for the personal development industry, we have to go. So where do we go? We pack all of our stuff up, no joke, and put it into 4 different storage units in Napa, California. 4 different units. Just shove all of our stuff in there, pack it up, and we're gonna go on this Airbnb adventure because we can't be smelling that every night. You gotta sleep, sleep it heals you. So we left. So this is the first studio that I was in. So we packed up all our stuff and I'm like, what am I gonna take? But guess what? We did have an RV. So we had a 26-foot RV. We ended up putting the stuff that we needed inside the RV. And we go, this is my first studio outside of being in the, out of the Bay Area. Then, just started building this and had a system, had to break it all down and pull it all up. Then actually had a station in my RV where I could set up and start working from there, building the team, getting on the Zoom calls, doing the work. Then from there, we're like, well, what are we gonna do? Are we just gonna stay in Napa? But we're like, well, we homeschool our kids, so we were like, well, maybe we could adventure to another place. So we traveled across the country to this town called Asheville, North Carolina. Has anybody been to Asheville, North Carolina? It's beautiful mountains, just gorgeous. So then we get another Airbnb. So we get to stay in the Airbnb, and I have the RV studio just in case we need it. So we're driving around, having another one, doing it again, breaking down, pulling up, because at Airbnbs, you can't stay for more than like a month, which is a problem, but it was also a bigger problem to be not sleeping, right? So come through here, had to set it up and break it down again. Set it up, break it down again. I just got really used to doing this because it was a system that I created because you know what? I still had to run product and design. I still had to help grow the company. I still had to help us find product market fit. We'd found it, we crushed it, but you know what? Like these systems that I was creating in all these different spaces was incredibly important because when you're coming down to it, you gotta build this intentionality, you gotta integrate it into your life. And even though it was crazy challenging to drive across the country, fly back and forth from Puerto Rico to Napa to meet with my CEO and run GrowthDay, the things that kept it going were these frameworks. So these frameworks of Next Level UX and these routines. I'm sure all of you have these different, routines that you have from stand-up, product reviews, the meetings that are recurring every day. Oops, I wanna go back here. Sorry about that. So these meetings that you have recurring all the time. Here it comes. Priorities, efficiency, thinking about how you do this, thinking about the speed of when something's gonna come out, the skills, like who on your team can do these sorts of things, the routines, the rituals, and to build and integrate. You could probably take a screenshot of this. I'll definitely share the deck with you all. But like these sorts of rituals, routines, habits, and the things that you create, raising the intention of the work that you do is about knowing why you have certain meetings and knowing when you have those meetings, what value are you gonna bring to those meetings? And if you're not bringing value to those meetings, then maybe you need to rethink being in those meetings. And if you're not contributing, those meaningful pursuits like we talked about, then you might wanna reconsider how you're adding value to your staff. The other things that you gotta do is you gotta understand your people so well. You gotta understand the processes behind what they do. You gotta understand like how you transfer knowledge from people. You gotta understand what craftsmanship is, what's the quality bar of what you create and what you make. You gotta understand how you communicate, how you execute, how you collaborate. Those are the big things that Envision that I learned, but you know what? Like every company is different when you step into a team and you're starting to communicate. You gotta find that love language for your team. You gotta understand how they like to communicate. You gotta understand how to deliver things in a very, very sophisticated way because you know what? That's gonna make the difference for how you show up for your team. That's gonna make the difference from like being okay to being great to being amazing to being excellent. You gotta also understand and master your product building process. Every team is different. We saw a lot of workflows and a lot of processes. And the things were like, how do you get started on a new project? How do you do discovery? You gotta understand and map out all these elements because it's gonna be different at every company you work for. And it's gonna be incredibly important to just know what that process is and master it. Find the gaps, find the improvement areas. You also need to understand for yourself as a maker, as a creator, who are the people that you involve with and you touch base with every single day, and what are the types of things that you need to do? Like, do you have Design Clarity Wednesdays and you have topics that you're gonna discuss? Do you have these other elements of like, okay, well, you manage 6, 7, 8 projects or products. What are the important ingredients of those products that are gonna keep them moving forward so that you can keep moving the needle forward to get to those outcomes, those learnings, those delivery outcomes, those insights? Super important. And then this whole other thing about this growth loop of being able to reflect and plan and learn and take action. Thinking about how you fill your bucket every week. Do you really think through like what you do every single week and how you're going to be prolific in your work? Like we talk about prolific output a lot at GrowthDay because it's not just about, showing up and get things done. Like we want to be high performers, but we also want to like elevate and get better every single week and know what our frameworks are to do that. This is one of my frameworks. And I encourage people to create their own growth loop. The other thing to do is think about like, okay, well, we got leadership, we got rhythms, we got these systems. What do those look like for you as well? And thinking about, okay, well, do you know what actually drives business revenue? Do you understand how to train as a team? Do you understand how to get into flow? Do you understand how to work through these big challenges? You gotta really think about your rituals, your rhythms, your leadership, because these are the things that keep the needle moving forward. These are the huge, really valuable aspects. And also, you gotta create an incredible environment for yourself. Me taking all that stuff on my RV, that was me creating an environment for myself because I didn't wanna work for the rest this next year with just my laptop. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have my station. I wanted to have my studio. I go live every week. I wanted to be able to have these trainings. I'm going on with my team. I want to have this really incredible environment. So, for you, think about like how you're going to paint your environment moving on from this conference. What are you going to do differently to create a really incredible ecosystem for yourself so that you can create better, so that you can make better, so you can have a better environment for your family, so that you can have this whole ecosystem to the right here where you're supporting your family, your friends, your XFN partners, the people that you support. And then, building in your communities, building in these other environments. Like, what does that look like for you? Have you thought through it? Have you thought about designing it and architecting it? You also got to know your rhythms, everyone. Like your weekly touch points, your flow, how you're going to get things done. Like how you scheduling your front of your week, to the middle of the week, to the end of the week. Are you thinking through like, why am I not getting anything done? Or why do I feel like I'm stopping, I'm not in flow every day? Because you haven't really thought through. Maybe you haven't even architected your week. So the first thing that we do when I'm coaching someone is we jump into their calendar immediately and start looking at every single meeting that they have, looking at all the block times that they have in their calendar. And how intentional are they with those things? And what are they gonna need to change or flip or try or test to get better? We talk about testing products all the time, but what about testing our workflows? What about testing our own chemistry for what we're doing? You gotta also understand your goals. You gotta know how to break those things down. You gotta understand your weeks, like what you do in a week. You can do so much work, but not just like, company work. You can do so much things that help elevate you throughout your days. You gotta be able to elevate your flow. You gotta be able to, think through all the things that are gonna help you build clarity, that build goals, to be able to plan them and be able to have a development plan, 30, 60, 90, so you really know how you're gonna grow this year. You're here for a reason. You're growing at front, but think about what happens beyond this. And then you also have to have prolific output, like your priorities, your focus, and we're gonna kind of close it here, keep this thing going. So, the reality is, you guys, like, there's so many things that happen in our life. Like more things are gonna come up. You'll have ideas, the team forms, they're gonna storm, they're gonna norm. There's gonna be new challenges. The reality is it's hard, people get sick. But when you come down to it, like the things that matter most, my adventures and the travels that I've learned is that there's so many amazing people everywhere in the world. And there's so much great intention, but you gotta bring that intention back. You gotta really think about yourself first so you can support yourself, and then you can support your family, and then you can support your team better, and then you can support your business better. But you gotta really start with you. And to do that, as we close here, is we gotta really think about this ecosystem of growth, right? Having aliveness, having connection, having meaningful pursuits. And then outside of that, we have this, let me come through here, we have this like ambition. Like how much ambition do you wanna like raise up or raise down? How much, click, there we go. What's your practices look like throughout the week? Oh, my clicker, okay. What kind of peer network are you gonna create around yourself? What kind of peers are you gonna be around that level you up? How are you gonna be assertive with what you do? And again, the systems around you, the rituals that you have around to support those things, the leadership that you're gonna need, and then of course, the very top here, the harmony that you wanna create in your life with your teams, with the people like that you care about. And you know, it's just like I've been on this incredible adventure in my career. Got to work at some of these, you know, it was incredible. And I'm just so grateful and so honored that I get to continue to do this and continue to train. But like really, this framework right here, take a screenshot of this, like capture this moment, because these are the things that are going to help you stay on track for your growth this year. And then, you know, next time we talk, next time we meet, I just want to root for you. I'm going to root for you every day. I'm gonna just champion for you. So if you need support, you need guidance, you need encouragement, I got your back. I got your back. So thank you for being here. I'm done. Like, let's go. Like, let's go.